All right. That was Blues Pop by Adrian Holovaty. And I'm sure there are some people going, well, that wasn't so strange. But if you are a player or composer, there are so many fun little twists and turns melodically and with the chords and everything with this whole piece. I absolutely love it. And the first time I heard it, I just was laughing, just out of pure joy. So Adrian, thank you so much for joining and sharing your music with us.
Thank you for having me. Great to hear it. It mission accomplished, I guess.
Honestly, this is gypsy jazz is never weird. Like there's never really strange gypsy jazz, although it can be dark and it can be, many different flavors. But rarely is it kind of fun. Like goofy in a way, like expressive, like I'm gonna go explore strange territory. And I feel like you're bringing in all of these interesting influences and making it very unpredictable. And I don't mean to disparage gypsy jazz or anything like that. I feel like you're turning it 15 to 35 degrees, and doing something different. So I'd love to hear your perspective on this.
Yeah, well, that was the goal. So I, for years, have wanted to make an album. I've been playing gypsy jazz for nearly 20 years, gigging here in Amsterdam and back in Chicago when I lived back there. And I knew I wanted to make an album, but I didn't just want to do the traditional instrumentation and the traditional approach, which is, oh, man, where do I begin? Like, there's always kind of the same repertoire, minor swing, Django's Tiger, the list goes on. And there's always the same kind of structure. You play the theme, you play some passable solos, then you play the theme, and then it's the song's over, go to the next track. And then the instrumentation is always lead guitar, rhythm guitar, upright bass, maybe a violin. And yeah, I didn't want to do that. I didn't feel like it was, well, number one, I can't really contribute much in that world because there's many better players who are really good at that. So, you know, I tried to zag when instead of zigging or whatever the stupid marketing expression is. So yeah, I wanted to do more arrangements and more experimentation with song structure. Been really influenced by Roy Orbison, who never seemed to have like an A form. It was always like A B C A D B F. So that's kind of the vibe I was going for.
Orbison was one of those guys that he would throw in augmented chords, diminished chords, and not necessarily in a passing way. He just would use different flavors of chords. Now, I know Django and Gypsy Jazz, they use a lot of 9 chords, a lot of 7 chords, but I feel like Roy Orbison found these unexpected ways of using a lot of these chords to bring out melody. And one thing I love so much about this album, it's called melodic guitar music, and I think, for an obvious reason. It's not here to be a shred festival, which is somewhat common in a lot of the modern gypsy jazz. There's guys who can just shred your face off, and they're incredible players, and I love watching them. But there's none of that on this record, despite having seen you evolve as a player for probably 10 years now, and you are a great player now. I know you can do a lot more than you probably will tell, but this album is really focused on melodic guitar music. So can you talk about your focus on melody and, your insistence on doing something, I don't know, perhaps not so straightforward, but something singable?
Yeah, I think the guy I worked with, Josh Turner, for he did the production and mixing work. He had the best observation about this about this topic. He said, "I don't know if this is a gypsy jazz album as much as it is a 1960s pop album that happens to use gypsy jazz instrumentation." And that like turned a light bulb on for me. I was like, "Whoa, yes, that's exactly something that I wasn't able to put into words." So yeah, I mean, I'm an obsessive Beatles fan. Um, have been for even longer than I've listened to gypsy jazz, and that's, yeah, that to me is real music.
Yeah.
So I love Beatles melodies, and I'm kind of sad that pop music today doesn't have such an emphasis on melodies anymore. But yeah, that's what I love. I just wanted to make um, a melody driven collection of tunes, and unfortunately, I can't sing. So I think a lot of these tunes might actually work in a proper pop slash rock context, like with vocals and harmony vocals, but that's not in the cards for me.
Well, no problem. This album is really just so fun to listen to, and it's joyful and unexpected. Uh, I just basically I was applauding the listening experience. It sounds great. It's very well recorded. It's very well mixed. It's balanced and everything. But honestly, you know, I hear a ton of music. Only a few things make me stop and like smile and clap in just pure happiness. And this is one of those albums. And I'm so glad that you released it. It wasn't that it's like, oh, this is cool that it's from Adrian. You know, to me, it was like, this is such a great album and so fun to listen to and so unexpected, especially if you have any familiarity with gypsy jazz. It really is using gypsy jazz as a vehicle to deliver other types of music. And I think that's a very cool and interesting approach.
And the purists would definitely say this is not gypsy jazz.
Of course, right, right.
And that's actually one of the reasons I called it melodic guitar music, because well, some of my friends think it's like a search engine optimization play for Spotify or whatever. Yeah, you'll catch all the people searching for melodic guitar music. But it's definitely not that. It was more that I kind of wanted to say, this is not genre equals gypsy jazz. It's genre equals melodic guitar music. It's like its own thing. And not, I mean, that sounds pretentious coming out of my mouth, but it's not, it wasn't meant that way. It's like, yeah, I realize it's not gypsy jazz. Let's just call it something else.
Cool. So yeah, we have a few people on the live stream. We're going to listen to one more track and then talk a little bit more. So if you have any questions, it'd be great to see some questions in the chat. So this next piece we're going to listen to is called Senseless Swing. It's a pretty quick one. I chose the ones, there are 3 tracks on here that to me just were so fun and interesting. So this is the second one that I thought was pretty cool. So let's check that out.
What a bunch of nonsense.
That ending is the greatest ending. What is that chord?
That's well, it's the Hendrix chord,
Is
sharp
it?
9.
Really?
But yeah, I was holding it. Well, it's kind of bent, so there's this little kind of creaking sound.
Yes.
If you listen with headphones, I just had to leave it in. It was just like the perfect way to end it. Just kind of like creaks out.
It's like 3 minor seconds stacked on top of each other or something. It's when I heard that song, I was like, "What is going
What's happening
on?"
here? Not allowed. Yeah.
And there's this guy named Carl King. He has an album from a long time ago. Um, and at the end of one of the songs, it ends in a diminished chord, and he goes, he had a guitar teacher named Craig or Greg or something, and he goes something like, "See, Greg, you can end a song on a diminished chord." And I was like, "Is Adrian doing this just to, I don't know, poke at someone?" It's so good though, really, really awesome.
It just felt like the right way to end it. Yeah, that one's kind of just a whole bag worth of silliness. Whole bunch of silliness.
Absolutely. So, a couple people, Kathy Starkey and Sharon Baker, both very helpful people for Make Weird Music. They've done a lot to help out. Both of them commented on how much they love the artwork. And I can say, I found out about you as a programmer. Adrian is a rather famous programmer, inventor of the Django Python framework and Sound Slice, which is the greatest online sheet music app and possibly the best sheet music app, period, in the world. So I was curious, like, is this some sort of algorithmically generated piece of art? You know, did you program this, or, you know, tell us about this artwork because it's really fascinating.
It was indeed algorithmically generated. I didn't make it. I found this artist called Ronnie Kaufman from Sweden, and I found his work just randomly online on Mastodon, and I loved it. And I loved his style, so I reached out and said, "Hey, I'm looking for an album cover." And I kind of gave him the vibe. I sent him the tunes, and he came up with an array of ideas, and then we iterated on them. One funny thing about that is uh, there's like an element of randomness in the procedural generation of the album of the image. So I uh, I was like, oh yeah, this is the perfect one. And then can I get a high res version of it? And he's like, oh, I actually can't recreate that because there's an element of randomness, and like I can't recreate that exact one again. So he like created a couple dozen of kind of variation, very subtle differences that not that interesting, but yeah, finally got one.
It's really beautiful. I just pulled it up for people to see while you were talking about it. Um, so we got another question from the Double Whiskey Trio. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Um,
I know the Django song, Double Scotch, Double
okay.
Whiskey.
Well, I'm sure it's a hat tip there because
I,
they're asking what were the records you ended up choosing as references for this mix?
yeah, I get the reference. So I posted as we were working on the mix. I posted on a Gypsy Jazz forum called Django Books, asking for recommendations for the best mix in Gypsy Jazz albums. Um, I what I sent to the mixing engineer was a recording by Antoine Boyer, who's I mean, one of the world's best guitarists. He's so good, and he's always had a really nice sound. And I sent Les Doigts de l'Homme, which is a French gypsy jazz band that also does a lot of multi-tracking and craziness, and they have a good sound. And then I also sent several Roy Orbison recordings. Those I love because there's so much going on. There's like his vocals, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, drums, bass, a whole choir, a whole orchestra, and like brass section, sometimes like a glockenspiel, all at the same time. But you can always, if you listen with headphones, you can hear everything. You can't. It's harder to do with guitar because they're all kind of the same tonal palette. But yeah, so the Roy Orbison recordings from Monument Records from the late '50s.
Wonderful.
Sent as
Cool. We have a few other questions. Sharon asks, are there plans to perform these songs live?
Yeah, good question. The answer is no, um, because I would have to hire like at least two other guitarists, and I so part of the inspiration for this was also how far can I take it if I am not forced to recreate it live. A couple of tunes might work live, like there's a waltz on there that's like reasonably straightforward, but yeah, I kind of threw that assumption out the window, and that's what let me be creative with a lot of the arrangements. So there's no plans to do it live. Yeah.
Okay, cool. AW asks a question that I resonate with. Will transcriptions for this album be available as a sound slice course?
Yeah, I've got I was trying to think of the tune that would be the most straightforward for people to learn, the most interesting for people to learn, and it's this waltz. It's called the Aching Waltz, and I'm almost done transcribing that, and it's going to be just on my Sound Slice channel. For yeah, you can just see it on there, and you don't have to pay anything or anything. It'll just be up there. So that'll come, yeah, hopefully in the next week.
Super cool. The only frustration I have or problem I have with this album is that it is far too short and there's not enough of it. It was over and I was like, what? That's it. We're just getting started, you know. And it's not a criticism, you know, of you or the album. It's just it's so enjoyable that it's just over. And you know, can we look forward to a volume 2? You know, will you be releasing another
Yeah,
album?
yeah, I've already started recording, and yeah, writing tunes. I was working on it last night. Yeah, for sure. I kind of caught the bug, and you know when we we finished the last tune, the last mix, I started to get nostalgic. Maybe this resonates with you as a fellow musician. Like, oh wow, I really enjoyed that process of collaboration, both with producer slash mixer Josh and the bass player Arnoud here in Amsterdam. So if for nothing else, then to have that feeling again of working with some great people. Yeah, so I don't know, maybe by the end of the year I'll have another one. Just yeah, get another one out.
Fantastic. I'm super excited to hear that. Um, Something that people probably, if they know who you are, they know this about you, but people who, like in the live stream, don't know you, have no idea how just humble and kind and generous you are. Like when I asked you about doing an interview for this, you were like, yeah, I just want people to hear it. Like, how do we get the word out? So, you know, I'm glad that we can get the word out, but I also want people to buy it. And Kathy
Uh,
Starkey did buy a copy, you know, while listening to this interview on the live stream, which
ah,
is awesome.
thank you.
And we do want people to buy this album. In the lower left and right hand corners, people can see URLs for adrianholovati.bandcamp.com and your holovati.com slash melodic guitar music URLs. But like, what are ways that people can support you, support this music, you know, and help you achieve your musical goals with it?
Really, just buy it and tell people about it. I know that nobody makes money from selling music these days. I really just want to recoup my investment in paying the producer and getting the mixing, mastering, and bass. So yeah, get the word out, tell people about it if you like it. I mean, don't lie if you don't like it. Don't tell people about it. Um, that's basically it. I actually don't use Facebook or Instagram. I'm super bad at super social media, so I am on Mastodon for the 0.001% of people who might even know what that is.
And Mastodon is not the heavy metal group. You're not referring to the heavy
Yes,
metal
yes,
group.
that's important distinction. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And then Gian Compuesto just bought it and said, hopefully I'll see you at DIJ again.
Yeah, yeah, Django and June. Yeah, I that's an incredible gypsy jazz camp that's nearly a week long in Western Massachusetts every June. I highly recommend that for any musician out there who might be interested in gypsy jazz. You don't have to have any experience in the style. There's instruction available for all levels. It's so good. You learn all day from great teachers, and then you just jam all night. It's fantastic.
That's cool. All right, so we're going to wrap up. We do have another live stream coming up that's not yet on the calendar for, you know, Make Word Music fans. It's going to be with Catherine Blake and Michael York out of England about their new Witching Tale album. We interviewed them previously about their first Witching Tale album. This one, I've heard it already. It's not out yet. It's very dark and electronic and pretty different from the first Witching Tale album. And Andre Chumley is coming to Phoenix October 25th with Pat Metheny. And so I will be filming, hopefully, I will definitely be filming how Pat Metheny's guitar rig works. And hopefully we can get a few seconds with Pat. We'll see. So expect the first video that actually shows how and why Pat Metheny has that incredible sound of his. And we do have a couple other videos in the works. But yeah, the next live stream is going to be with The Witching Tale out of England. And I think we're doing that October 24th. So hopefully we'll see you there. And, thanks to everyone who showed up in the live stream. Really appreciate it. Adrian, thank you again for doing this and for sharing your music.
And thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So we're going to listen to Grand Ole Bopry as we close. Any final words about either the song, the album, or anything else you want people to know about it?
Yeah, well, in Gypsy jazz, the traditional vibe, the traditional rhythm is something called la pompe, which is like this boom chick rhythm on acoustic guitar. And one of the things that I tried to do on this album was see what other colors you can add to that. Sometimes with success, sometimes not. You be the judge. But on this particular one, I try to combine it with like a more Beatlesy finger picking acoustic guitar thing. It's not quite like Chet Atkins style. It's like, yeah, Beatlesy, like from the tune Julia from the White Album. So yeah, that's it.
Right on. All right, here we go. I love that ending. So great.
Little country-ish thing, I guess.